Hi guys, welcome to Antique Sprinklers. This is part 3 of our history of the rocker jets, a collaboration between me and my friend Carrie out on the west coast. And I think we're up to a part that maybe a lot of people have been waiting for, the part circle rockers. So let's check in with Carrie and that amazing collection he has and see what we're going to be looking at tonight.
Now we go into, which I believe is about 1955, and we have the 30 or the 302 comes out. Actually, the 501 part circle only, thumb screw adjustment for the arc stop, and the 511 original 2 part circle rocker jets. This is when they started calling it the Rocker Jet. It was known in the 55-56 catalog as the new Rocker Jet. Then the 521 came out. About that same time, I believe 56 around, the 302 came into existence. The 501 was short-lived, gave way to the 502. Still has the, it's a slip pin, full part circle, thumb screw or the thumb nut arc adjustment. You had the 302, 502, 511, and the 521. This particular 521 was right at the end of the line. I'm going to say about 1957, possibly 58, because this one actually got the bearing of the 522 on it. The ratchet style gear type arc adjustment was patented in, I believe, 57.
So yeah, here we are in 1954, and that 301 rocker we showed you in the previous episode. And by the way, if you haven't watched parts 1 or 2, don't worry, I'll put links to both of them on the end screen. And most of these episodes stand on their own anyhow. And it's, as I mentioned, it's 1954, and John Royer, whom we talked about last time, a foreman at Buckner Manufacturing, has submitted a patent request made an application for a part circle reversible sprinkler. And that sprinkler then, in 54, they introduce, in 55, as the new rocker jets, not the ag models that we looked at last time, but these are the part circles. So we already talked a little bit about the 302. It's still a full circle only, but it has that distinctive rocker jet lever that we get used to seeing from then on, all aluminum, surrounding the sprinkler and the nozzle. And then the rest are these part circles. So we have the very short-lived 501 that came out when the 302 did. The 502, which is another half-inch rocker jet, but you can see it's much larger than the 501. The 511, which is the intermediate size, sort of that 30 to 40 foot radius kind of sprinkler, and a 3/4 inch. And then the big guy, the 1-inch 521. And we're not going to see all of these in my collection. My 501 doesn't reverse, and my 502 has some similar issues to it. It does not reverse well, but we'll see the 511 and 521. And of course, there's next to nothing that can go wrong with a 302. So we have Royer's patent, and it doesn't get awarded for over 3 years. I think it was the middle of 1954 he made the application. It was December of 57 when it was finally awarded. But these very durable, very simple sprinklers really took off. And one of the interesting things about this sprinkler in particular is you get to see the progression of the arc stops and the reverse mechanism on these sprinklers, kind of all packed into the lifetime that these were out before they were replaced in the 1960s with those 503s, 512s, and 522s. And so we start with a very simple mechanism, and I'll have pictures of this. and it has a thumb screw that tightens down and holds these two brass arc stops in place. And you know, this one is a good example of what can happen with this style. When it hits the point where it should return, it just keeps pushing and building pressure until it can push that arc stop actually, and the thumb screw lets go a little bit. The other thing about this one is it's full circle only. This post is fixed in place. You can't push it up out of the way. And then we have an advancement here in my version of the 502. And don't get excited by this nozzle. This is very much the wrong nozzle for this sprinkler. This particular anti-backsplash mechanism, even though it's pre-patent, that patent wasn't even applied for until well into the 60s when this guy had already been discontinued. It just so happens that the nozzle will screw into the sprinkler, so somebody did that a while back. Anyhow, the advancement in the arc stop was you now could have full or part circle in the same sprinkler, because this post that is the bit that hits the trip collars can actually be pushed up out of the way, thusly, so the sprinkler will rotate 360 degrees. And that's a good advancement. It still has the thumb tightener on there. And then, much later in these sprinklers' lives, I think to avoid the problem, or to cure the problem they had of the arc collars slipping a bit, they came up with these geared teeth arc adjustments. And again, I'll show the patent for this and a better close-up of how they actually operate. But there are notches that these teeth on the arc stops fit into all the way around, kind of shaped like a gear. It's raining hard here at Antique Sprinklers, by the way. And so that means your setting is going to stay set when you pick the arc that you want the sprinkler to rotate back and forth. And then the other innovation on this particular sprinkler is, one, you see that the trip mechanism is now behind the sprinkler, and it is also a breakaway net mechanism, meaning that it'll flip up out of the way for full circle operation. And so it's kind of neat. In one series of these sprinklers, we see the entire evolution of the arc stops and trip mechanisms that Buckner used. And right to it we shall get. Up first is the full circle sprinkler we've been talking about, the 302. It's good for 30 to 40 foot radius, and it'll operate nicely between 20 and 50 psi. So let's go ahead and watch this guy in action. Up next, we have the rarest of them all, the Buckner 501. And I have absolutely no catalog information about it, no performance specs. So it looks as though it operates at about the same range and flow as the 302. I'm sure that's dependent on the nozzle that you got with it. But let's just enjoy watching this thing operate.
Here we have a rare Buckner 501 Rocker Jet, introduced in the early to mid 50s. Is a part circle only, the thumb nut for the arc stops, and this one actually works really well. Most of the ones I have or have seen do not work very well in both directions.
Up next, we have the 502. And the information I have on the 502 is that it operated well as low as 20 psi. And at the higher end of the pressure range, it could cover a radius of up to 45 feet. We ran into a little bit of technical difficulty in the segment we're about to see, but I thought it was worth seeing the 502 run on its own to include it in the video. So let's enjoy it. Up next, we have the Buckner 511, the 3/4 inch inlet rocker jet. And it had flow characteristics of about 4.5 gallons a minute, up to a whopping almost 21 gallons a minute with its largest nozzle at its highest pressure. And it would cover a radius of between 32 and 58 feet. And it's just a beautiful sprinkler. Let's watch it in action.
Here we have the first version of the Buckner 511, patent pending. This was patented as Buckner's reversing revolving sprinkler. This 511 is the original series, along with the little brother, the 501. These were different in the fact the lower trip was a different casting, a little bit smaller. The 501 was part circle only. This 511 has the same unusual lower trip with a brass slip pin for full part circle operation. Mainly for quick coupler use. This has the knurled thumb nut for quick, easy adjustment of the arc stop for quick coupler use. Also, it has the unique female sand cast bearing, not seen on any other 500 series rocker jets. It also has a jam nut at the top of the bearing spindle, presumably to keep it from unscrewing when it's running in left-hand operation. These heads technically did not have a forward or a reverse. It's just a true bi-directional sprinkler, as they predominantly run at the same speed in both directions. This head is very rare and very unique with that bearing and lower trip assembly. This one has a 5/32 nozzle, which is small for this size head, but it still works pretty good.
And now last but certainly not least in this line of sprinklers, we have the Buckner 521. It is the 1-inch inlet adjustable part circle rocker jet. It was capable of covering a radius between 48 and 65 feet and discharge between 8.5 and 33 gallons a minute. So a wide operating range for this guy. Let's watch it in action.
Here we go. I'm going to show you station 31 in our yard. This is a native slope. We water about once a month during the summer. This is showcasing Buckner Rocker Jets from the mid-50s. The original series of part circle rocker jet sprinklers. The 502, the 511, and the 521. Here we have the 502. This whole series, remember, has the friction thumb nut to apply friction to keep the arc stops in place. This is meant to provide fairly easy adjustment, as these sprinklers were pretty much designed to be a quick coupler sprinkler. So they wanted to make it easy to adjust and readjust. Friction thumb nut, though, when you tighten it down, tends to move the arc stop and makes it a little bit difficult to keep them adjusted. This was solved when they came out with the 503, the 12, and the 22 with the ratchet style. Here we have a 521. And we'll move down to the 511. Rocker jets have a unique sound, fairly consistent rotation speed forward and backwards, and they have that vertical splash instead of a side splash. Kind of unique to them. Here we have a 65D over there. We'll sneak it in. Again, these heads are working very positively still, almost 70 years old.